this is episode 4 of Mama's Kitchen. What we're doing today is we are taking chicken. Now how I got it this thin is I took chicken breasts, cut them in half, and then I filleted them. I washed them, and then I cut them in half, and then I filleted those halves of the chicken breast in half the other way. So you got a nice bunch of flat pieces. First thing we're going to do is we're turning on the heat on this. We want a little bit high to start with, so we're going to go with a good medium high heat. I'm using olive oil, and I can't tell exactly what to pour in. It covers the bottom of your pan depending on the size of your pan. I'm using cast iron, whether you use gas or whatever, everything's going to be a little bit different, so just experiment with your heat and the type of pan you're using. Once this heats up, the spices that I'm using, I have all together here in the bowl, and what it is I made it real simple, a tablespoon of everything, so you can't get it wrong. I put in a tablespoon of basil leaves, salt, chili powder, paprika, Jack Daniel's chicken rub, and garlic powder. Okay, and then I've got, I set aside a cup and a half of milk. Okay, got a cup and a half of milk, and I'm guessing I throw it in myself, so I'm not trying to help you all out a little bit, but that's about 1/3 of a cup of flour. We'll see as it goes. You add a little bit more, thicken it up. The longer it heats, the thicker gravy gets. So if it doesn't look right at first, just let it sit for a while and you'll see it'll thicken up. Alright, so we've got our olive oil. This is getting hot. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my seasonings actually into the hot olive oil. And it's actually going to cook in that. Alright, now my other gravies, I still use a little bit of animal fat, which is the grease from the skin and whatnot. With this, your olive oil is going to be the point that's going to make your gravy come together. So this one's a little bit healthier than my old southern way of doing it. Alright, so it's right now it's bubbling. That's a good temperature to start with. You're going to take your thin chicken breast, and you're just going to put it right in to the oil and seasonings. Alright. I had 2 chicken breasts. There's 4 pieces right there. There's another little piece. You get 2 chicken breasts. You're going to get a lot of meat out of that when you fillet it. Like I said, cut it in half and then fillet those halves. Make sure each piece is touching the pan. And put it around. Watch yourself, you don't burn yourself. Tongs here. Put that back a little bit. Alright. And then you just spit it all in. Now, like I said, when you rinse it, make sure you dry it with a paper towel. And then you just put it in there. Alright, and now we're going to take a break for a minute, because this chicken is going to cook on each side. What you want to do is get it a nice color. The better the color, the better the flavor. So when it gets nice and crispy on one side, flip it once, check it, see how crispy and how colorful it is. Flip it to the other side, and then we'll get started on the gravy part. Okay, at this point, let's see if I can get y'all to see this. I've got it nice, it's got a nice sear to it. And at this point, I'm flipping it over. See the color on it? Okay, so right now I'm flipping it and getting the other side ready. This part is not going to cook the chicken all the way through. You're just flavoring the outside of the boneless, skinless chicken cutlets. Okay. That smells so good. Alright, and I think my heat's a little bit high. I'm going to turn it down to about medium. About halfway up and down. I don't know if y'all can See if you can see that. All that color, nice crispness. Okay, and I'll be back in a minute. We'll start making the gravy. Okay, so I've got a good coloring and crispiness now on the other side. I'm actually going to take the chicken out, set it aside for right now. The grease is good and hot. It's got the flavoring from the chicken cooking, and this is going to be the start of the gravy that this is actually going to slow cook in about an hour. Alright, first thing I'm going to do, I got my grease is hot, it's all flavored. I'm going to put a little bit, be careful, a little bit of milk in there. Alright, and then whisk. Oh, I don't see it, but I'll use this. Alright. Actually, I'm sorry guys, I'm looking for my whisk. I thought I had it out. Okay. So, we're going to add a little bit of flour at a time. Alright, this is how it doesn't end up lumpy. And you stir and you stir and you stir. Okay. Where's my whisk? My whisk. Okay, so we're just going to keep stirring. It's getting thick. Alright, now once you good thickness to it, add a little bit more milk. Alright. And then a little bit more flour. And you do this slowly and you keep mixing. And that'll give you good gravy without the lumps. Alright, I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit again on a medium-high heat. And we're going to turn it down again a little bit. It's a little bit of adjustment. I mean, there's not one way to do it. You just have to kind of watch what you're cooking and add to it. Alright, I'm going to add some more milk. Whisk that up. Oh my gosh, if this was smell-o-vision, you have no idea how good this smells right now. I wish I could send that out to you. Okay, so we got the flour in there. Okay, and we're going to add the rest of the milk and see where we're at. Looks good. It's nice and thin right now, which means it's going to thicken up the way I want it to as it heats. If it's already thick, before it's done heating, you're going to end up with paste. So you want it nice and thin. As it goes along, it just gets that nice gravy. Now what you can do, as you go along, and I probably will do this, is add some milk to it if you need to thin it out. This is just, it's so slow cooking and it takes a while. The texture will change. Okay, so what we're going to do right now, I've got my gravy. Let me see if I can get, I'll show you right now about how thick it is. Alright, if I take a scoop, now watch this. See, it kind of pours out like that? That is perfect. It's going to thicken up into some good stiff gravy. Okay, now we're going to add our chicken cutlets back in. There we go. Oh my god, these look so good. And I'm using a light olive oil. It doesn't overpower it. Some things call for the darker olive oil. This is a light version olive oil. Okay, now my chicken is just about completely buried in the gravy that I made. And I'm going to turn this down to about a quarter of the way between medium and off. So that's like a real medium center low. I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to take a lid and I'm going to cover it. I'm just going to let that sit. And it's going to cook about an hour. And when that's done, I'll show you a trick to the best, easiest biscuits you'll ever make that this is just going to go all over. Okay, see you in a little bit. Okay, just a note, I'm watching this. I've got my clear lid on it. It's bubbling, which is too much because, like I said, I wanted to cook about an hour as a slow cook. So I actually turned it down to the notch just before low because low would be too low, so it's just one below it. So just keep an eye on your heat. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, it's been about 40 minutes. We're getting a little bit more cooking time. Your chicken will be done when it's tender. When you stick a fork in it, it just falls apart. It'll be done. So if it's not quite an hour, let it go a little bit more. Just make sure it's on a low heat and cook it as long as you want in your gravy. This is Southern made Mama B's biscuits. They taste like homemade. It's not worth the effort of doing it from scratch. Just follow the directions. You throw them on a tray. You cook them. And what you're going to do after you get done cooking your biscuits, when they're done and your chicken is done, you lay your biscuits out. What I do is I cut them in half and kind of spread them out on the plate. Maybe 2 biscuits, so you got four halves going. Then put your 1 to 2 pieces of chicken on top. Take your spoon, throw your gravy, and just slather it all in gravy. Make a nice salad with it, and it's done. Now, what I did during the break, I looked and saw that my gravy wasn't quite as thick. Like I said, you have to kind of gauge it as I'd like. So it's hot, but you want to make sure you add your flour a little bit at a time so you don't end up with lumps. So I added about a tablespoon more of flour. It's just all-purpose flour, and it worked out great. I took the chicken out, put it on a separate plate, whisked my flour in, kept mixing it until it was nice and smooth. Then I put my chicken back in, let it finish cooking. Do your biscuits, and you're done, and that's dinner for the night. All right, let me know how it turns out.